Wearing stylish shoes is one of the signs of fashion that shows how much you care about your feet. From time immemorial, shoes have always been a part of clothing that is worn by both men and women. Throughout history, there have been various shoes that people have used for some time, and some of them even had fans until a few years ago. The different shoes left in history are called the strangest shoes these days. Before the 1970s, when new shoes arrived in Japan, the people of Japan wore a special type of wooden shoes known as high-heeled sandals at the time that they named Okubo. These sandals were made of a simple piece of wood, each of which was about 14 centimeters high. This reason of the existence of these shoes is not only because of the fashion of those days, but this shoe made the feet less dirty and not close to the polluted surface of the streets. Of course, it was very difficult to walk with these shoes because they were heavy and also stiff. These shoes can still be seen in some cities of this country. Subscribe our YouTube channel to watch the rest of this video and more. One of the strange shoes used in the Middle East in the 14th and 15th centuries is known as Cupcake. These shoes were known as women's high heels at the time, and their height was different. Because the paths were dirt or muddy at the time, women used these shoes to stay clean. Cupcake is the sound that these shoes produce, and of course it has become the name of these shoes. Cupcakes were usually high quality expensive shoes made of leather or other materials. In the cold regions of northern Europe such as Norway, Sweden and northern Russia, people needed warm, sturdy shoes to work in the cold for years. In these areas, women wore special shoes called barks. These shoes were made using a special tree called birch. They wore leather shoes over these slim shoes and then left the house. This type of shoe was popular in the early 20th century. Among all the weird shoes that have been used in the past, there are shoes that have just been made and imported. Heelless shoes, first unveiled in 2007, are one of those weird shoes today. There are no heels in these shoes that look like high heels. The balance of the first principle in these shoes, which according to its designer is completely present in it. However, after the unveiling of these shoes, there was a lot of criticism against it, and doctors confirmed that they are harmful to the feet. Another very strange shoe that is not very old are ballet boots. These shoes were first designed in 1980s and of course quickly gained popularity in those years, most of which was popular in Japan. The original design of these boots was very high heels and it was combined with simple ballet shoes. These shoes, which caused several problems in the spine and of course the legs, were soon overlooked and less used, but there are still examples of them. In the 70s, European men made a strange change in the way they dressed. They believed that shoes were a very important element for a man and that they should always wear strange, one-of-a-kind shoes. It was during this period that European men chose high-heeled shoes for themselves to be both taller and look a little different. It had even gone so far that King Louis XIV had ordered a pair of red high-heeled shoes for himself. Of course, this case declined at the end of this century and people forgot about it. These days, only a handful of museums around the world have simple specimens of these ancient Italian shoes, chapines, as they were used for the period between 1580 and 1620. These shoes, like the Japanese Okubos, are made of wood and have very high heels of 18 centimeters. These shoes are not so light in weight and of course very expensive because they were made of high quality wood and decorated with jewelry. One of the oldest Indian shoes called padakas was used in the 17th century. These shoes were made of wood, but the strange thing about them is that they have no procedure and are made of only one sole and of course a handle-like part. The person wearing the shoe always had to keep the shoe with the foot, which prevented them from walking for more than 20 minutes. In the 9th century AH in France, men wore very strange and special shoes for wedding, which you have certainly not seen examples of. These shoes, which were made of very expensive wood, ended with a steep slope upwards in front of it. This made walking in these shoes dangerous and painful for a few minutes. The shape and image of this shoe is so strange that it explains everything. In one of the strangest Chinese traditions of the 10th century, families chose traditional Chinese lotus for their daughters and they had to wear it for the rest of their lives. This tradition prevented the girls from growing and walking at the end of their lives. This tradition continued in a Chinese village until 2009 when the last survivor of this strange tradition lost her life.